depend on image pool policy to make sure that the images that are encrypted are checked against valid keys, even if they are found in a cache of the snapshotter on a worker node. So as this particular table shows that no matter which image pool policy you use it, uh, you will have to provide the required keys if you're using encrypted images. And how do we do it? We kind of realign certain things. So earlier we were only sending the required decrypt keys via the pull image, and we were doing the image authorization check here after this yes here. But now that we have moved that call of checking authorization in Creo or in Containerd in runtime service. So when a create container happens, you will have to send the decryption keys, relevant decryption keys, and the Creo or Containerd will try to fetch the image annotations and check the authorization. So this is how we're handling it. There is a sample implementation of this in. I'm having some trouble with my laptop. Hold on. Yeah, the sample implementation in Creo that I have implemented. That I kept here. So along with this KP, if you want to try it out, this is the Creo runtime you'll have to use. And soon I'll add it in Containerd as well. So there is that. Although right now, since we are doing it as a part of every single create container call, we're thinking we'll probably add a check here, which can be a configuration flag during the runtime, which can enable or disable this image authorization. So in case you are running a runtime where you're not at all using the encrypted images, you don't have to fetch the image from a content store and check for authorization. So that's all I had. If you have any more question, I'll be happy to answer.
So since we have to we push all the implementation into each individual container runtime implementation. So have we talked about to add the bubble up call, like the interface call, CI interface call, to check that one? So make sure all the container runtime implement this.
Yes. So in this, I'm changing this CRI runtime interface service. So any runtime that implements this will have to implement. Although we can't make sure that they actually do the check authorization. What we can make sure is from the CRI point of view that they will receive these keys. It's completely up to runtime that we trust the host in our threat model. So we have to complete runtime to decide what to do with those keys.
Can I have a question? And because I believe there's the outside this one. So earlier I saw you. If I remember your cap correctly, you mentioned that the alternative consideration. So basically, right now you present here. Actually, it is in your cap is the alternative consideration in your initial cap. So you mentioned that each container runtime implement this one, you're using Containerd as example. But you also point out, you say that this is kind of like the common pattern for all the container runtimes. And also the Kubernetes already have the key management, all those kind of things. And so you prefer to make the Kubernetes to handle those things. So what changed?
So all those things are still true. Like the Kubernetes, as you can see here, we are still using Kubernetes secrets. We are still going to use Kubernetes secrets infrastructure to store the private keys. What has changed here is earlier we were not using CRI runtime service to send the decryption keys, and because of that, so we were only sending the decryption keys via pull image call here. And what was happening was if you don't specify the image pull policy as always. So if you say let's say if you specify as never, it will never go on this code path, and you will directly just cycle through this and without having image authorization check. And this problem exists even for image pool secret as of now, but we thought we could handle this for image pool secrets by doing this.
Okay.
Yeah, I think also there was some discussion around that. The semantics of the image pool and image secret should be different as well. I think Lantau posted a comment about that.
Yeah.
So I think we agree on that. So I think this is at least a step towards that. And then eventually we still want to fix the image pool secret stuff, but that's going to be, I think, a little bit semantically different.
Yes. This is a comment Lanta posted where we came to agreement that we should have the keys should be passed down to create container, and that's what is happening now.
Yeah, basically after last SIG Node meeting, I had a discussion with Ziju, and we found that although the image pool secret and the encryption secret is very similar, but they are still different. For example, for image pool secret, only you have to pull the image to know whether it works or not. But for the decryption secret, actually, as long as you have the image on your node, you can always verify that. It's not related to what the image pool policy is.
Yes.
So you don't need to network.
So we decouple that the pool policy, because earlier there's a comment, if I remember, maybe visited by the director. So it's kind of like okay, because the earlier design always have to require the pool. And then we have to enforce that the pool policy if you are using the encrypted image here. So
but
I remember.
Actually they look very similar, but still different if you think about it more.
Yes. Yeah. Any more question here? Yeah. I just briefly read today's the new proposal. I like it. Do you have more questions?
So I guess the question for us is kind of like, how should we go forward with this? What should be the next steps for us?
I think normally it is we kind of like got agreement from the SIG Node, and we are going to approve your CAP. And the next step it is to go find a reviewer and approver. And normally a lot of time is reviewer and approver is the same person. And from the SIG Node, I think Lantau here could be the reviewer and approver. So assign for this from the SIG Node. So then we can start to the implementation. But the first thing is I think the director and I should approve your CAP first.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks.
Any more questions? More concern? Okay, so then looking forward. And so Lantau, okay for as the reviewer, right? Okay, thanks. So let's move to the next one. So next one is VPA. So Vinay, maybe you want to start.
Hi, Don. So this is continuing the follow-up from last week. I posted, added to the thread with the analysis on how multiple pods, 2+ pods would, we handle the case of 2+ pods if the kubelet were to restart during the process of update being requested. And I was wondering if Dave, I don't know, Tarek is not here today.
I just took a look and responded to that specific thread.
Okay.
But I do think, and I think it looks fine to me. I think that either if we do a local checkpoint or some other way of keeping state across restarts, we should be able to solve that problem.
Okay.
I think we still need some guidance from Don and Derek on the approach we want to take for keeping that state.
Okay, so the advantage with the local state is that you're not extending the pod spec and it falls in line with how we, it is an extension of what we're doing in discovery of currently running pods. And you reduce the overhead of talking to API server during the update process. I was leaning towards the local store for that reason. The putting it in the pod spec is similar to what we do with scheduler using a sub-resource. Just like we set the host name, we would be setting this. So that's also a fair approach. We just have to decide. So I guess we take a vote, Don, or what you feel, what Derek feels. I don't know if Derek has had a chance to follow up with it. Maybe you and David can kind of do an offline thread. I cannot be involved in a private discussion right now for our reasons. Our lawyers have said avoid that if possible, although it's okay to do it with US companies.
So David and I just briefly chat, but we haven't get into the detail yet before this meeting. So we are going to discuss, follow up. I will follow up with the David of 9 and also with Derek. So hopefully we can make the decision as soon as possible for you.
That would be great. So once I get guidance on which way to proceed, I'll update the main cap with whatever design we decide to go with.
Sure.
The advantages and disadvantages of each are kind of laid out. If you need me to put bullet points, I'll do that. Let me just do that. I'll extend. I'll add another comment to that saying what's the advantage of doing local versus storing it in the pod spec.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Sure.
So there are any question and concern related to the VPA topic? If we don't, let's move to the next one. Next one, I think it is Chris. Chris, you proposed to talk about your request of the code review, but
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, can you
hear me?
Not many people review that proposal. Can you just put us up to date with what you propose?
Yeah. So it's a bug fix to solve the problem that when you restore from a checkpoint, code from a checkpoint, if there's no connection to the API server, the kubelet doesn't have the node labels. And so if the pod was deployed with a node selector, when you restore it, it will never be run until there's an API, until there's a connection to the API server. So it means that you can make checkpoints that you can then not use. And the whole point was that we were trying to make checkpoints so that we could restore the functionality on a node without a connection to the API server. And so my pull request is just the fix I'm suggesting is that we ignore the node selection information when we read the checkpoint information back. So this has no consequence once the the connection to the API server is restored, because then everything is resynced. It's as simple as that. So the problem was noted quite a while ago, and I've been trying to suggest getting it into different versions, and now that the deadline for 1.16 is coming up, I thought I would try again.
Okay. So what I say, your change list is, yeah. So more is just clean all those information. So. Okay.
Looks like this has been mostly the cluster lifecycle folks talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Clayton and Jordan Liggett on the PR.
Yeah, I do kind of understand that maybe the functionality that we're trying to use here is going to go away eventually, and will be dealt with in a more a more systematic, a more designed way. But until that functionality is available, I think this is a good way to fix the problem.
At this moment, honest, I don't think, because this is PI has been open for a long time, and it's our first time to look at this.
Looks like Yuju's been on this PR, but it looks like
I don't think Yuji look at the entire of this, and
she's left a number of comments.
So we need and can understand based on the problem you state here. I can clearly see there's the problem and something need to fix, but I'm not sure this is the right way to fix. Is there potential this could be exposed more problem to the production, or not? So I haven't seen. Oh, you use the UG. So I will sync up with UG. Unfortunately, UG is not here. So we will talk to her and make her is the reviewer for this one. So can we talk about this more through the PR? And
yeah, that would be great. That would be great. If there's more people talking about it, that would be fantastic.
It looks like Clayton asked for a KEP for this. Back
yes.
When you put a hold on it, is there a KEP?
There is no KEP. There was no KEP when the original feature was added. So I'm in a kind of no man's land of I think this is a bug fix.
So I think there's just nobody. I also see the Clayton's comment, and I think it's kind of unclear for everyone. Mm-hmm. Here it is. This could be potential have problem or not problem. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, no, I agree. I agree. It's unclear.
Mm.
I would tend to agree with Chris that this is a bug. But.
Yeah, but even some bug fixes, if they're disruptive, require some more planning.
Yeah. The problem is we at this moment at least we don't know. We fix this particular scenario, maybe expose other problems. So we want to have understand the original root cause and see all those kind of things, because not everyone have this problem, right? So obviously what you described, I can see there's the problem for that particular use cases, and we need the cleaner the test and understand this. So I will talk to Yuji after today's meeting and make her be the represent SIG Node as the reviewer, and so then we can carry on from there. So it's not like the SIG Node, and I believe there's the cluster lifecycle also have to be involved. So we are going to start from there. Is that okay?
Yep, that's absolutely fine. I just want to make sure that we don't fall down the problem that, because I don't believe that this functionality is used very much.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure how many people are using checkpoints at all.
Yeah.
So there may not be a huge kind of people saying, oh yes, I'm definitely using this. This is causing me a problem. I think a lot of people are just not using it. We have a particular scenario where we want to ensure that, for example, after a power up reset event, things can still come back up even if there's no network connectivity. That's not a usual use case for people. I understand that. Mm-hmm. So I can believe that maybe people will think it's just not worth putting any effort into fixing this. And I want to put my hand up and say, for some people, it's definitely worth it.
Yes, yes, I will sync up with Yuji. The reason is I mentioned Yuji is not just because she already looked into this. It is because for that checkpoint feature, she actually used to be the reviewer, and so she know all the background and reviewer and known to the SIG class lifecycle and look into that feature. So she should know the more than us here.
Okay.
Rest of folks from the SIG Node and know the background, and then this is the safe fix or not safe fix. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That would be very helpful.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up and get us attention. So thanks. So let's move to the last topic for today. So last one, it is I think who is the proposed this one. So limiting the socket count with the topology manager enabled. I think
Yeah, so this is Kevin here.
Kevin.
Yeah, so the issue, so we're wrapping up the majority of the topology manager PRs so that we can get everything in by the code freeze at the end of the month. And one of the issues we've come across is that the different hint providers that we have for the topology manager, in the worst case, they need to enumerate all possible socket masks across all of the different sockets that you might have on a machine, which in the worst case results in 2 to the n-1 masks, where n is the number of sockets that you might have on your machine. Most machines tend to have a small number of sockets, so this isn't an issue. But if you do happen to have a machine with a lot of sockets, the state can explode once you get to those larger number of sockets. So the question came up as to kind of what the best way to safeguard against this is, so that if we do encounter a machine, maybe it's a virtual machine that someone set up that has, say, 20 sockets on it, we want to do some things to limit it to only allowing 8 sockets or less. That's just kind of a number we came up with because it keeps the computation pretty small. And so I was just kind of wondering what your guys' recommendation is for the best way to kind of safeguard against this. Is it something we should put in place as the kubelet tries to come online, where we say, okay, the topology manager is enabled, the machine that we're running on has more than 8 sockets. We want to fail fast right now so that they can, go look at the logs and see, okay, why did this just fail? Okay, it's because I'm on this kind of machine. I guess I can't use the topology manager here. Or is it better to, at the time that we try to launch a pod and it wants some aligned set of resources, have it fail launching of the pod saying, hey, we can't launch this, even though you turned on the topology manager, too many sockets on this machine, we can't actually do anything for you. Or even something else if there's something better to do.
Do we know the reason why we have so many socket masks to be generated? Maybe just revisit the data type which is holding it.
So the way that the topology manager works is that you generate one hint for every possible socket mask to say if you can allocate resources from within that socket mask. And then it combines the hints from different hint providers to see if there's any alignment on them, and then picks one that matches all different hint providers. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So you propose to make the maximum socket, the topology manager today, Kubernetes can support is up to the 8 socket.
That's kind of what we're proposing right now. There's no systems that I know out there that have more than 8 sockets in any reasonable setup. Mm. And so that's why we kind of picked that number. It actually will work still fine up to 16 sockets, where, because that's 2 to the n-1 for 16 is still 6, 5, 5, 3, 5 combinations. But the minute you get to, say, 32 sockets, it, explodes. So 8 or 16 would be fine, but we want some way to just limit the number of sockets that the topology manager supports.
Yeah, so this is kind of a little bit relevant earlier. We talk about, we never really figure out how to do is like the node. When you query the node can display what kind of feature they support, like the node level of the feature discovery type of thing. So like if we could have that one, so then you enable topology and topology manager, but because it is beyond 8 socket current we can handle, so we basically just say sorry, that's disabled, and then you can figure out why it's disabled. Same thing for certain, like the other resource management feature, it is because you are missing certain kernel module, for example, and you not support even you configure Kubernetes resource management to. So this is kind of a similar in that one, but we never figure out how to do that. So I don't have a strong opinion, just say, we is either it's just disable or it's just give their warning, or but I think we just need to think about the usability, like the user, how easy to discover, and we don't want to support, or it's just turn off. This is off. How easy they hold the integration it is for user. We could actually say, oh, you enable this kind of things, but there's the event. Or maybe condition, we could risk condition, not condition, no more such things. The tent, so we could do something like that. But I think the usability is pretty important for customer, for user.
Yeah, my inclination, at least in the alpha release, is to do my first suggestion there, where we look for the feature gate, we see if the topology manager is turned on, we look at machine info. If we see more than 8 sockets, we fail the kubelet right there and say, sorry, you can't enable the topology manager if your machine has more than 8 sockets, at least for this alpha release. And we could think about going forward if there's something better or more robust. I'm curious what you guys' thoughts are there.
In these cases, at least from my own product perspective, I'm okay with this approach because alpha, we don't use an alpha feature. So, but I think there is some pilot user, they want to try the alpha feature. We need to think about their deployment method. I don't have a strong opinion here because for me, yeah, for alpha feature fail Kubernetes loudly, that's good. That's good. From my philosophy, I think that's the good thing, make that fail loudly. But I'm not sure other people's, we want to hear other providers' opinion here.
Yeah, what do other people think? How would they expect this to work?
Patrick, did you ask some question? I haven't just read your question. I can't read.
No, I just had a comment saying that I thought some of the power servers scale past eight cores, eight sockets, but I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, I mean, because that would be a limitation on them then, if we did stick with 8 as the number.
If nobody have the other second don't have other concern, I think we could go for that for the alpha release. Just fail Kubernetes.
Okay.
David?
What's the failure mode when someone say runs with too many sockets? Does the kubelet?
Yeah, so at least at the moment, the way it's implemented is it wouldn't fail. It would just take a really long time to try and enumerate all of them, which is obviously going to stall the kubelet. It's not good for anyone. And go ahead.
Would it stall the kubelet? Would it make running all pods slow? Would it prevent the kubelet from processing anything, or?
No, this is run at the time it's trying to evaluate the admission for that one pod, for that one container of that one pod.
You would essentially get really slow admission, but only for pods that were requesting anything that involved topology, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. I think we should consider the possibility of doing nothing here. It sounds like it's not something most people will run into. And it's not, as long as the failure mode isn't too bad, it might be worth.
Yeah, I think the failure mode would be that your pod might be stuck indefinitely and there might be a go routine sitting there spinning for a really, potentially really long time, right? But we could emit a warning as well. And then it would be up to them to somehow, I mean, I guess that would just show up in the kubelet log, but if they just saw that it was taking them a really long time for their pod to launch,
yeah,
they could kill it and I guess try again, but it'd be hard for them to discover this was the reason, I guess is the case, unless they had access to the kubelet log.
definitely true. Yeah, I guess the other thing we can do is just add a timeout for this sort of thing and a middle warning. But yeah, I'm not sure it makes sense to add a config knob for this, because the future I see is we limit it to 8, and then someone says, oh, well, I want to break that limit. And so we add a new config knob, and it's a knob that only 5 people understand, and just sort of ends up.
No, I tend to agree with that. Yeah, because hard coding it to 8 is very arbitrary. So
right.
Yeah, how about this? It sounds like maybe what the right answer is in some ways is to stick with doing nothing for now, because again, going back to the argument that this is an alpha release, just have it in the release notes that you shouldn't do this beyond 8 sockets. And we can create an issue to try and explore what a better way to deal with this is later. Maybe adding a timeout with a warning that'll show up if they, see why the pod failed and so on. Does that seem reasonable?
I may have missed this, but how computationally expensive is this? Like how long in wall time?
I haven't measured it completely. I know just from quick experiments, if I do it with 16 sockets, it takes about a half a second to get through all of them. And if I bump that to 32, I let it run for maybe 25 seconds and it wasn't done yet. But I didn't actually see exactly how long it takes.
Okay.
So how does that last thing that I said sound? If we just have a note in the release notes that this is only recommended to use up to 8 sockets, and then have an issue to explore better ways to give feedback to the user after.
My concern it is always like the other deployment.
Mm-hmm.
Like the in GKE, we don't have this. We shouldn't run into this problem because the alpha feature won't be enabled anyway, no matter what. So, but the other deployment may have that concern. Like there's no way for them to fix. They require how they are redeploying those Kubernetes. And I'm not sure everyone have the dynamic Kubernetes config enabled, so they could disable on the node more than 8 socket this feature and enable this one on the like the 8 socket and below. So it's just, but I think since it's an alpha feature, so I'm not really particularly concerned.
Is there a way to return incomplete results, or do you really need to have everything actually enumerated?
Yeah, the issue if you didn't enumerate all of them is that because it basically looks at different hint providers and tries to find a mask that's in common. So if you missed one, then you might miss. If you skipped one, you might miss the exact one that was matching with some other hint provider.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
How we are going to document this, no matter which solution we choose, and how we are going to easy to document and communicate, let the user know. At least I think we need to change cap for this, update the cap. At least there's some warning. Yeah. And then the release notes will capture those things when we announce this alpha.
Yeah, that seems reasonable to me.
I think it is your call for the alpha, because I think the fail Kubernetes like the fail loudly, badly, and then it's easy for you to get user inputs, so you can see how many people depend on and they have the more than 8 sockets or whatever number sockets.
Right.
And if you just not fail the Kubernetes and definitely don't have the problem what I earlier mentioned, like I have no idea their deployment, and then they may have the single configuration deployed to all the node. So then they basically, for this kind of things, one node have the crash, then they may have to disable this feature completely because they have the single configuration unless they are enabled to build their own dynamic the Kubernetes configurations infrastructure. Even we have that feature a while back, but it need to build their own infrastructure to enable that feature. Right? So both have the pros and cons. So if I personally will to using the fail loudly, so then we can quickly turn around. Instead of that we forgot, and then we kind of work around, and then promote to the beta, then we didn't get any feedback.
Yeah, I think that's my inclination. Was my inclination as well when we started the discussion, just because, yeah, exactly that. I don't want to forget about this once it moves to beta or beyond, because we just decided to leave it without, any error or warning, and then there's just an issue lying around somewhere saying that this should be addressed at some point.
Yeah, but when you fail the Kubernetes, please make that failure mode more clear so people understand what's going on.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the message that gets emitted. Yeah. Okay.
You
I think that's
app and with those kind of things, and so the people can follow, easy to follow, and the release notes also can add that into the action or whatever, like the clauses.
Yeah, I'll make a PR against the KEP, and I'll make sure that Louise adds these to the release notes.
Thanks.
Do we do host validation when the kubelet starts up?
We do have, but it's a little bit separate. So there's a separate to the validation, host validation, but it's not done by Kubernetes.
Right.
And the kubeadmin today is doing some validation which we build, but it's not Kubernetes.
Okay.
We used to talk, initial proposal when I talk about the validation is I basically want Kubernetes become to that role. So you have the Kubernetes run Kubernetes as the command line. And so you can remote invoke Kubernetes to initial entire of the node and validate the node also. So then in that particularly, you can think about what kind of feature you couldn't enable based against your configurations. But we didn't go that way. We instead people based on that idea propose the kubeadmin. So that's totally different route.
Okay.
So yeah. Okay. Do we have more other questions related to this typology manager or any other topic? This is the last topic we proposed for this week. Okay, so looks like everyone got 15 minutes back. And thank you for attending today's SIG Node, and looking forward to you guys next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.